Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys. You know those times when you find somebody on Instagram that you idolize and you just think that they're freaking rad and you follow their page and you obsess on every single picture and then they DM you and you actually feel like you can be friends with them? Well, don't worry. That's today's guest. I've been following her for a while. I feel like we've known each other for so long. If you guys do not follow her, get on Instagram, follow her. She's Yogi Dentist. Her posts are incredible. And I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Jenny Perna to the show. Jenny, how are you today?
I am doing so well. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
Oh, girl, you're so welcome. And I mean every ounce of it. I love following your page and you're so nice and you're so fun and and actually, you guys, the way Dr. Jenny got on the podcast was I did put a post out the other day and I said, hey, because people have been recommending different doctors, different speakers, different specialists to get on the podcast. And I put a post out there that said, hey, who would you guys like to get on the podcast? And Dr. Jenny, I love that you just were like, I would love to. And I was like, heck yeah, I'll take you. Like, let's do this. So,
that is something that I've learned, that you just have to put yourself out there. And I have to tell you, I have to kind of brag on you for a second. I first saw you speak at Voices of Dentistry back in January, right before all the shutdown and everything. And I was just absolutely blown away by you. So I followed you immediately. And I just think that what you're doing for dentistry is absolutely incredible. You've really helped me with my focus in dentistry and my passion and my vision and my future within dentistry. So I'm very excited to be able to talk to you today.
I'm so excited. It's so fun. And thank you for that, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's the goal, is to positively impact dentistry. And so you guys, if you don't know and you haven't popped on our Instagram story, every Friday I do Friday shout outs to offices and dentists and dental companies that are supporting dentists that are positively impacting dentistry. And Dr. Jenny, you're definitely one of those. So tell us just a little bit, people that don't know you, kind of give them a little background. I've got your bio, but I like to hear firsthand because it's, one, awkward to sit there while somebody reads your bio about you, and two, you're going to be more authentic. So kind of just give us a little flow of how you got into dentistry and kind of where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Merritt Island, Florida. That's kind of where they used to launch the space shuttle. But I grew up there, and I grew up dancing, singing, acting. I've always been really involved in the arts and being creative. It's where I am in my most comfortable state and my happiness. And so my whole life I was dancing, and I thought that I was going to have a career in dance. I actually moved to New York when I was 18, went to NYU to pursue dancing, but to also just see in the city and see what my competition would be like.
Totally.
And it was a very short stint. I realized that I wanted a little bit more stability within my career, and I'd also always been an academic. So I thought, when I was in high school, I was like, well, maybe I'll be a doctor or maybe I'll be a dancer. We'll figure it out.
Don't worry, totally same career path. No big deal.
Exactly. That's kind of, the duality of who I am. But once I came back to Florida, and I went to University of Florida for undergrad, and there's a moment within your life that you have to decide what you want to be for the rest of your life in terms of career. I had decided dentistry was not the route that dance was not the route that I was going to go. And so I started to look more and more into medicine. And I remember there was a class that I took over the summer right before my junior year of college that was Intro to Medical Professions. And it was interesting because we were able to go in and shadow different doctors. And one of the topics was a dentist. And at the time I had a friend who knew a dentist in the area and said, well, why don't you reach out and you can shadow? And So I did, and I ended up getting a job as a dental assistant / sterilizer / front desk.
All the things, wherever you would fill in the gaps. Yes.
100%. To be fair and honest, I don't think he wanted me chairside. I was very green in the field. So wherever I could fill in and help, I did. And so while I was working with him, I was getting in my hours for shadowing for dental school, and I realized that dentistry was so much of a creative outlet, if you allow it to be. And so that's what really drew me into it. And that's why the dance and singing and acting part of me plays a role in it, is that the creativity of dentistry is kind of what drew me into it. So I went to dental school at Nova Southeastern. I graduated in 2014. After that, I went and did a general practice residency in Asheville, North Carolina, which is such a wonderful place. And I absolutely love Asheville.
So pretty.
I know. On my spare time, my fiance Vince and I, well, mainly Vince, but we'll look at cabins in Asheville and just fantasize.
Dream big, right? Like, okay, exactly. One day, put that on the vision board. I like it.
Absolutely. Oh, it is definitely there. And so after I finished my residency, Vince got into his orthodontic program in Jacksonville, Florida. So we moved there and lived there for a couple years. And then now I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm a practicing general dentist out here.
Wow. I love it. I love so much the path you went on to get into dentistry. And I do appreciate that you played the dental office, just fill in and anywhere they can go. And when you said you were really green, oh my gosh, it took me right back to when I was a dental assistant. I remember being so green. I even went to dental assisting school. It'd been several years since I had practiced, though. And I remember, I'm shocked that dentist let me stay there. The number of times he had to call the lead assistant in to swap me out, those are tragic moments, and my heart sunk. But I don't blame him. I mean, I hit him in the head with the overhead light. I shot blood into his loops, and I launched the Root ZX off the table. I mean, the things that I did, and then I would just remember looking at him with my big eyes, and people always say your eyes are so expressive, and they were either oh my gosh, I'm toast, see you later, I'll excuse myself, if you will. So the good times, the good times. But I love that. So you're an associate now, correct? But you're looking to buy a practice. Is that kind of where you're at now? Yes.
So I have been an associate for about 6 years now. Which is actually, it's funny. Early in my career, I was working with a dentist, and she's a prosthodontist in Jacksonville. And she had a multiple of associateships, and then she was opening a practice. And she gave me advice that I think I've carried so much throughout my career, is that she had the opportunity to just be in different offices and see what she liked, what she didn't like. And it ultimately led her on the path to opening her own office. And so I feel that my trajectory is similar. And that I've had associateships, I've lived in Jacksonville, I live in Austin, I've seen different environments, I see what I like, I see what I don't like. And what I've realized through the whole process is that I'm very much someone who wants to create my own narrative within dentistry. And that's no knock on but it's super empowering and important for me to have the purpose of making my mark within dentistry. So at this point in my career, yes, I am looking to acquire a dental office.
Whoop, whoop. That's exciting. And I love that. I just spoke with Dr. Denny. He's at the University of Nebraska. And I was speaking actually today to their college. So if any of you out there, your alma maters, you think that dental team would be a good fit to speak to them, by all means, reach out, let us know. We'd love to speak to your college. But today I was actually talking to them, about associateships. And I'm always very pro you guys getting into ownership. That's kind of the path I go. That's what we do. But I also think working with so many students at Midwestern, I love for you were able to sample a lot of different practices. I mean, and also an associateship gives you the flexibility of, Vince is in Jacksonville, so we're going to be there for a few years, and then we're going to move to Austin. And when you're not sure where you want to settle down, I think an associateship gives you a lot of benefits because, just like you said, you get to see all the different things in many different practices, and then you get to go out and take it's almost like figuring out the best practices that you then want to go carry over. So I love that. And I would say for anyone who's in an associateship thinking of buying, literally learn everything you can in the front office. Like, go sit up there, go pick the office manager's brain, go check with the treatment coordinators, like ask the billing coordinator, like, hey, I want to send this claim for my patient from step A to Z. Show me how to do every single step of the process. Because docs, even though I don't want you ever to have to do that, so many doctors get shackled and they don't realize that those are the pieces of ownership as well. They're super stressed about, your LOI and your prospectus and making sure that you're checking all the bases of, is this practice a good practice? And what about our new patient flow? But yet once you get past that and you're actually in the practice, what about all the pieces, especially in the front office? I think that that's a good area as associates while you're associating, if that's the correct term, I'm not even sure. But while you're an associate, to be really learning the front office duties and just sit there, ask them, pick their brains, ask them if they'll let you just process claims or answer the phone and schedule or whatever it is, because I think a day in a life of those positions, especially while you're an associate, can give you such a broader perspective when you become an owner. So I'm so thrilled for you. I cannot wait. We'll be cheering you on. We'll be helping you. Never, ever, ever hesitate to reach out and ask questions. For any of you that are getting ready to buy a practice, I tell people all the time, just ask us. I'm Kiera Dent from the block. I'm not a doctor. I'm not scary. We do this all the time. So reach out, ask any questions. And to you, Jenny, hands down, you better ask.
I appreciate that so much. And I think that you said such wonderful things right there, that as an associate, yes, there's a lot of things within the office that aren't necessarily responsible for, but you can definitely figure it out. Ask the questions. And something that I realized as an associate, and I have to, give a lot of props to my employers along the way, is that I've actually been able to be a part of the leadership within the office. And I think that's across the board as an associate. You're able to be a leader, and it's whether or not you step into that role or whether you don't want to. And I chose to really try to hone in on those leadership skills while I'm an associate and treat it almost as if it were my office. And what would I do in this situation? And how do I have that difficult conversation? And how do I keep people accountable? And how do I develop a good culture so that if and when I transition into owning an office, that I've at least, tried it out a little bit and seen what worked, see what didn't work, and just cultivating those skills.
100%. And you know who I am. I'm Kiera Dent. So we're going to drill down on those, because I like to talk about ideas, but I like more to discuss actuals that people can put into place. I will say one thing that you mentioned, though, before we dive into this. Associates and doctors, whether you choose to accept it or not, due to the fact that you have doctor on your name, you're a leader just by the state of who you are. So whether you're like, well, this is my practice, or I'm just an associate, I'll be honest, as team members, we look up to you as leaders, no matter who you are, because you're our doctor. And you are the one that we look to as an example and as a leader, whether you choose to accept that role or not. So I love that you as an associate have realized that. And I just want to throw that out there. So for any of you team members, if you have doctors that need to hear that, just casually send this podcast to them and say this might be a great one for you to hear. But Dr. Jenny, let's dive into this. How did you, what are some of those leadership tools and the culture and accountability? What are some specifics that you have learned, that you've implemented, or that you've just through your years of being an associate have really been able to take on? I'd love to hear some specifics from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I realized I started to really hone in on those skills once I had moved to Austin. When I was in Jacksonville, I had a very strong office manager that I realized that I leaned a lot on. That if I needed something to be done, I just had to tell her and it would be done. And we had a very good rapport like that. Now, when I came into Austin, I realized that it was also my job to help lead the office manager as well and be, the liaison and really stand as a leader. So, for full transparency, and I'm a very open, honest person, and I'm working more on being a vulnerable person.
Sure. So, you said, hey, I'll be on your podcast. You guys, be that way. Take the leap. Look at where Dr. Jenny is. I do those things. So keep going. I like this. Okay.
So when I was at this office, there was a issue with the culture. And so I decided that it was my duty, my job to ensure that we created a team that was focused around the same vision, core values, and goals. And there were a lot of speed bumps along the way. A lot of nights where I would get really down on myself and be really hard on myself of I didn't lead them very well. I didn't set my expectations for them. And I felt that the ball would be dropped often. And I would take it all on myself, which I think is a good quality to always reflect on yourself. But it can also be a bad quality in the sense that you can't control everything on the outside. You can only really control your reaction to it. So through those moments of feeling that I had failed as a leader, I took it upon myself to seek out educational tools from people who are leaders as to how they do it. So I really dug in. I think I started this in 2019. I have a goal every year, the number of books that I want to read. And so I make sure that I have some leadership books in the mix of it, books about culture, books that you can transfer into your daily life as a dentist and as a leader. And I also started listening to a lot of podcasts. And I have to say, Kiera, one of the podcasts that I listen to is yours. I think it has been, and I'm not just saying that, I'm really not. If you saw me during the lockdown, we were only really shut down for about a month and a half for COVID. Every single day I would go on a very long run and your podcast would just run.
Aww.
So I was listening to one after the other. And something that I really wanted to focus on was accountability. So, you know, as doctors, and I think a lot of us can fall into this trap of we do things a certain way and we know how we do it and our teams should just be able to pick it up.
Right.
Because
obviously we should read your mind.
This is how we do it. Exactly.
We should do this.
Exactly. And, you know, I see both sides of it as doctors. Sometimes it's hard because you're in the flow, you have patients there. But to be able to, you know, utilize times for trainings, telling people what your expectations are, and then following up with it, is probably one of the most important things that I have learned. I felt that I was good at teaching, but perhaps my follow through wasn't good. So
Sure.
I would teach the skill. I would let my team member perform the skill. And if they weren't up to par, I would avoid the difficult conversation because it was just too much for me to handle. Mm-hmm. And so through just learning and self-reflecting and making myself more vulnerable, I've put myself in the position to have those difficult conversations, to hold people accountable and, you know, and to also express the why behind it. You know, it's not that I want this handed to me because I'm a jerk. It's because we want to make sure that our patients know that we're fully taking care of them and it's a seamless transition within the office when we are taking care of them.
Guess what's back, you guys? Women Dentist Connect. Yes, Dr. Summer Casmel and myself are putting on our first ever virtual event. We did it last year. We had raving fans, and due to COVID-19, we decided we're going to continue on. So mark your calendars, November 13th and 14th. All women in dentistry. We don't care who you are. If you're a doctor, a treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, spouse, we want all females to come with us to Women Dentist Connect. So pop on over to our website, womendentistconnect.com. Tickets are on sale right now. And we even did a thing where it's your entire team can actually come. We want all of you to come. It's going to be CE. We're going to talk about mom guilt, how to run a successful business. We're having an incredible speaker lineup with Dr. Mark Costas. He's our only male cameo. We're having Desiree Yazdan on social media marketing, Aaron Elliott, who's talking about sleep apnea. We're also bringing on Dr. Amanda Wilson to talk about ortho. And of course, Dr. Summer Casmel and myself will be there talking about how to hold your team accountable, how to run effective meetings. So don't wait. Get on over to womendentistconnect.com. I'll see you guys November 13th and 14th. 100%. And as you said that, I was thinking, okay, I know I'm guilty of that. And I'm sure we've got male doctors there, but I want to dive into the fact you and I are both female on this podcast today. You guys know Dental A Team has a sister company called Women Dentist Connect, which, by the way, pop on over to womendentistconnect.com. We have our virtual all women of any, I don't care if you're a doctor, if you're treatment coordinator, scheduler, office manager, a spouse, but it's for women specifically. November 13th and 14th, we have our virtual event. So hop on over there. Tickets are on sale right now, so be sure to go over there. But Jenny, let's talk about this, because as you were saying that, I was reflecting on myself thinking, okay, no, I'm not a doctor, but I know in my own company and in my expectations, one, I do expect people just to know. And so for one, why don't we ever say, I mean, also in my relationship, I'm just like, well, you should know that I want flowers without me telling you I want flowers. And then also when they don't follow through with what we want, why is it so hard for us to have that conversation? And I'm like, well, is it because I don't want them to feel bad? But I mean, I think about myself as a dental assistant. So let me just throw myself back into those days. I would much rather, although I will feel embarrassed, yes, because I'm trying to be perfect for my doctor, I would much rather, docs, for you to tell me that I did not hand you that instrument correctly, or that I didn't have the right, I would say, order of instruments. I'd much rather know that so that way I can get better, because I loved being 5 steps ahead of my doctor to where it was seamless. But for Dr. Jenny, why was that an issue for you? Like, let's just dive down, because for me, I think I'm scared that they'll be mad at me, or they'll think that I'm angry with them, or I'm just downright terrified to tell somebody that they're not awesome. And I'm like, it's fine. I'll just deal with it. And like, no, I don't want to have that next, but like, it's fine. What is it for you? What did you see that kind of switched maybe for you to start having that follow through, to start having those conversations? Was there anything in that realm you noticed for yourself?
Yeah, I think one of it, to speak frankly, is that in the beginning of my associateship here, I think the culture was not where it needed to be. And so those difficult conversations didn't go well. They would occur and it would be kind of an explosion. And so in that sense, you just want to like shy away from them, because it's just hard to manage. And as an associate, it's, you get to the point of how much do I want to take on of this? Because now it's, it can affect my personal life as well. Because I do take a lot of this to heart.
Sure.
So through a few changes in the office, we were able to develop a better culture. And it was nice to be able to be a part of that with the owner and the office manager, and really getting the right people on the right seats of the bus. And that gave me a little more freedom to have difficult conversations. And, for instance, I have an assistant. She's fantastic. She's absolutely wonderful. And there was an issue with a patient, nothing of her fault or the patient's fault, just a miscommunication. And I said, I'm going to have this tough conversation with her. And I did, and it went well. And it was just, she was very receptive. And I think the moment that I allowed myself to be vulnerable with her, meaning when I say, hey, is there anything that I could have done better? I do a big case presentation and I walk out and I said, do you think that patient was confused? That's putting myself in that vulnerable spot where she can give me feedback as well. And I think that creates a better relationship. So once you have the culture in place, you have the right people there, they share the same vision, and you come to the same level. It doesn't matter who you are in the practice. You remove your ego, and you're able to have those conversations that are two-way conversations, not just, hi, I'm the doctor. Let me sit you down and tell you everything you did wrong.
Sure.
I think it opened up a better relationship, and therefore it became more accessible to have those conversations.
Absolutely. And I love a few things that you mentioned is culture. And I think that we so often can have the culture be one of, like, you guys, regardless if you say it or you don't say it, people are always wondering, am I doing well or am I not doing well? That's just human nature. We're constantly trying to assess and determine that. And so I have seen that teams that are willing to have, quote unquote, uncomfortable conversations quickly and efficiently and just get right to the point, they feel more safe and secure than offices that are constantly tiptoeing around it. Because everybody in the offices that are direct, that they're frank, they're loving, that's their culture. People can move quickly. They can work autonomously. They aren't afraid because they know if they do something that wasn't the right, correct way, or there could be a better way, it's not an issue with them. It's just that the culture is there, that this is what we do, versus the other offices that are like, we're so great. Like, let's high five every day and we're never going to talk about anything. Well, guess what? Everybody knows that something's going on. And so they feel scared. They feel like, oh, do I do this? Do I not do this? And so I really do love that you said you guys fix the culture first. I think that's the root and that's the base. And then you started to make it that the culture and the standards of our practice are that we address things head on, and it's a two-way conversation, not a one-way. And I think when doctors, I will say from an assistant, an office manager, a treatment coordinator standpoint, when my doctors were human and they weren't trying to be above me, but they were on my same team, and it was like, hey, what did you do? What did I do that rocked? What were the areas that we could have done better? So that way next time we just freaking kill our case acceptance, or our patients have an even better experience. How can we both come to the table even better? That's where I felt like we were on the same team versus it being like the doctors and then the front office and then the back office. And when they're segregated like that, you don't have this cohesive relationship. So I love that you dialed into that. You guys fix that. And then I always say, raise your standards. Like, for you to say it was explosive, a lot of people would not go back to that and hit it head on and be like, all right, we're going to keep coming back. We're going to keep coming back. They'll shy away. And that's just a standard that you've set in your practice. So I love that. Raise those standards, guys. Like, and be, hey, it's going to be uncomfortable, but we're raising those standards. I will tell you, I've practiced this so much that now if there's an uncomfortable moment, even within my family, within my marriage, it usually lingers and festers with me for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And I'm like, I can't handle this. We're talking about this now. Like, let's just fix it, clear the air so we can all move on. Whereas before I used to wait weeks and months and years before addressing it. And so just raise those standards up. I think that's brilliant. Such a good point you had. So,
yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny. I do the same in my relationship as well, is that we just have to face it head on. Let's talk about, let's deal with it, and let's move on from it. And I think it's one of the healthiest things that you can do in any relationship in your life, in your friendships, your work relationships, and your partnerships too.
Yeah. And then you just don't have time for that superficial, like surface level relationships. This weekend, or my sister got married on Monday, so I've had a lot of relationships around, lots of family, lots of friends, lots of people I don't know. And it was funny because I was sitting with certain people and I'm like, I'm kind of over this. This is a real superficial conversation. I'm just kind of over that. I like people that will get down to like the nitty gritty of the world and let's really talk about what inspires us or whatever it is. And so I think you raise those standards and you start to realize what you're looking for in other people, because you'll attract that into your life as well. So I'm going to actually ask, what were some of your top books that you read for leadership? I'm sure a lot of people are interested. So what are some of your tops that, whether it was this year or a few years ago, what are some of the top leadership or culture books that you really have loved that helped give you some of those perspectives?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the greatest ones, and probably one of the easiest reads, is Be Our Guest. It's a story about Disney. I think it's just wonderful, who goes to Disney is like, wow, what a horrible time. Now, you might have to wait in the line, it might be hot or whatever, but everyone that works at Disney is just so happy and they're in character and they never break character. And their vision is, and their mission is just to make every guest of their park happy. We actually went to Disney over Christmas, and it was my future brother-in-law's birthday, and he was wearing the pin that said happy birthday. And maybe not every single worker there, but it seemed like every single worker there said happy birthday to him. Even the guy with the trash said happy birthday to him. And it just, that book is so good, of just easy things that you can do and bring into dentistry to perform as a leader and to create an environment for patients that just exceeds expectations. And it's all about them being the guest. I thought that was fantastic. Extreme Ownership. It was written by a couple of Navy SEALs. Such a good book. The stories that they told, and, a lot about putting your ego aside and really just leading the team. I thought that was really excellent. A book that I really liked that wasn't necessarily about leadership, but I think it's a very good book. It was very personal to me, but it's called Biology of Belief. It is a book that I'll have to find the author for you, but essentially what it is it's talking about actually the science behind our perspective in life and how our perspective is really what governs our behavior. So a lot of times, people will say, well, my mom did it this way, so that's why I'm like this, or my dad's like this, and so that I have that same character trait, when in actuality, it is down to the cell science. It's more of what you've learned to perceive within your environment and your stimuli. And it's become like an innate reaction. And I think it was really good for me because I tend to be an emotional person. And so those emotions can really kind of mess with my mind until I've had the ability to like step away, think about it, calm down, and then have like a more rational response. And so it was a really cool book because it, you know, I love science, obviously. So it brought that in, and it's just a very interesting read. So those are just a few. I mean, there's a bunch on my list. Culture Code is great. How to Win Friends and Influence People is fantastic. Leaders Eat Last, like all just really, really great books.
That was a slew of books, and I appreciate that because I was thinking, gosh, I've heard of a lot of those, but I haven't actually read them. So definitely adding those on. And I hadn't heard of The Biology of Beliefs, but as soon as you said it, I'm instantly hooked because I do believe that whole belief system. I mean, you look at Gandhi, one of the best quotes is like, our beliefs, it starts with our beliefs, and those impact our thoughts, and those impact our words, and those impact our, basically beliefs will impact your whole destiny. And so if you can change those beliefs and recognize that that's the root cause, then you can fix it. And it's such a trip. I love it. I mean, gosh, I am so fascinated by our beliefs. And I remember being at a Tony Robbins event, and he said, I could convince you that your parents aren't your parents. And I remember sitting back and just feeling like there's no freaking way you could ever do that to me. Like, not a chance. No way. I know my parents. Because I have a belief that my parents are my parents and they love me and they're incredible. And he's like, what if? And of course, he wasn't just speaking to me, but I took it as Tony Robbins and Kiera were just having this, exciting conference. But he said, like, what if I were to take you and I were to knock on your door and say, hey, Kiera, just so you know, your parents are not your parents. They actually kidnapped you at birth. And your real parents, Susie and Dawn, are at the police station waiting for you. And I'm going to take you right now because they're there and we've finally been able to track this down. And they take you and put you in the car. So it would be me, and I'm going in a car. He's like, at that moment, your mind would start to question, like, there's no way. Rick and Melinda were my parents. They love me. Like, could they, but you'll start to question and you'll say, but could they have kidnapped me? You'll start to question. And as soon as you can question a belief, that's where you become a little rocky in that zone. And then he said, what happens if we show up at the police station and there are these two people that are supposedly Susie and Dawn that you've never met, and they see you and they're like, oh my gosh, my baby, and they come and hug you and kiss you and they're like, we've missed you so much. He said, in that moment, you would be wondering, wait a second, are my parents really my parents? Are these my parents? And he said, in that instant, your belief has been shaken, and now we can completely change your thoughts and your actions and your words and everything. And I thought, oh my gosh, if that really happened, I really do think I'd question if my parents were my parents. Like, that's a pretty good setup and story. And so to tie back to your book, I just think, and to tie back to everything we're talking about, like our culture, the way we are as leaders, the way we are as spouses, as the way we are as parents, the way we are as coworkers, a lot of that stems from the beliefs that we have about ourselves, from our upbringing, from our environment. And you can shake a lot of those and you can turn them, and you can have a completely different destiny. And so I love that, because for me, some people might feel that's scary, but for me, I love that there is freedom and choice versus feeling that there's just parts of my life that I can't change. And so I love that you brought that up. That was definitely a Tony Robbins tangent, but I hope it helps you guys see like how much freedom we have if we can change some of the beliefs we've had about ourselves. So solid.
I totally agree. And I think, if we have these beliefs and they're negative beliefs, they can be used as a crutch or an excuse, and it just limits our growth. And that's something that I'm so big on. And that's something that I really speak to my team about and want to create within the culture, is that we're all growing. We're not perfect. We might mess up, but to know that every single day we can be just a little bit better, and not using any of these like self-deprecating beliefs to hold us back from being our true selves and reaching our true potential, and just being better for ourselves, for our patients, for our families, for our friends. That's just, it's so on brand. So I love that you are all in on that as well.
All in. So, okay, last question that I want to, before we wrap up. So your Instagram name is Yogi Dentist. So tell us a little bit about that name. I was intrigued by the fact that it's called Yogi Dentist. Tell us a little bit, obviously you're into yoga. So kind of how did that come about and what do you do incorporating yoga into dentistry?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually started that Instagram to just showcase like who I am as a person and to speak to a couple of my dualities because I was always a dancer and creator and then I was very scientific as well. Well, my dancing kind of translated into yoga as I got older. So when I was in dental school, I was, we're all stressed out in dental school. It's just the nature of the game. You're learning how to you're learning how to juggle so many things. You have a million assignments, a million exams, and it can be a lot. It can be very, very stressful.
Dental students are the best people in the entire world to prank because they're always so uptight. Like you can scare them and prank them and it brings them down to life. But oh my gosh, I loved working at the dental college and doing pranks on the students because they were always so uptight. So,
I love that.
Yes, I can speak to that completely. You're exactly right.
I love it. So during dental school, one of my friends wanted me to come and do a yoga class with her. And I was a little reluctant because I remember from my dancing days that I just hated stretching. And that's what my mind went to when I thought of yoga. I was like, I can't sit in poses. I'm a very get things done, move. I run, I work out, I'm always moving. And to slow down seemed like a big strain on my life. So
it does. I'm the same way. As you're saying that, I'm like, yep, speaking to the choir over here. Keep going.
So I went to the yoga class with her reluctantly, and I absolutely fell in love. Just as anything in life, when you force yourself to get uncomfortable or do the thing that you don't want to do, sometimes you find your passion. So
you guys, she has like literally said this 3 different times. Like if you have not picked up her subliminal messaging right now, like put yourselves out there, do the uncomfortable, go big, like just jump in 100%.
Yes. And so, that's kind of where my yoga journey began. I fell in love with my yoga studio in Fort Lauderdale as well. I would go every single day. And so when I was creating the Instagram, I just thought, again, what are the dualities of who I am? And something that I always try to do is bring positivity to people. One of my goals is I always want people to leave an interaction with me better than how they started it. And I'm not always a positive person. That's, we're all human. But in an effort to bring positivity into my life and spread positivity, that's kind of where the Instagram began. And I also wanted to break the barrier between dentist and patient. We could pull all the dentists, all the team members, and I bet every single one of them has heard at least one point in their career a patient come in and say, I hate the dentist.
Oh, never, not once.
Never.
Not every single day.
Exactly. And so it's just, it's sitting here as a dentist who truly went into this profession to help people and to create smiles and change lives. It can be disheartening. So I wanted to break that barrier and to show patients and show colleagues like who I am as a person, break down that wall, be vulnerable, put myself out there and be able to cultivate relationships in the meantime. So that's kind of how the Instagram started and just kept growing and developing connections.
It's really an impressive Instagram. So do you do yoga every single day?
I try to. There is...
For like how long? Walk me through this because I'm trying to think like, okay, how would I incorporate yoga into a daily life? So just give us like a quick rundown of how you do it.
Well, I think that there's 2 ways to look at yoga. I think you can look at it from the physical aspect, but you can also look at it from the mental aspect. So I think that we all go through phases in life of different modalities of our life. And there was definitely a time in my life where I was practicing yoga every single day for at least an hour. And then there's times in my life where I don't necessarily get on my mat every single day, but I take the teachings of yoga to my life. So in stressful situations, I remember to bring my breath back into it. I also, you asked like how I bring yoga into dentistry. I also start to tell my patients to breathe. When I have an anxious patient and say we're doing anesthesia on them, I tell them to focus, and I tell all my patients this, to focus on your breath. And I've had many patients come back to me and say, that was really helpful. No one's ever told me to breathe.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yes. And so it just helps your mind at ease. And And I've also become very big on journaling as well. And that's all, I tie this all back to yoga because I think yoga has the ability to, yes, make our physical bodies strong, but to also make our spiritual body strong as well. And our mentality, it's like a healing force for our mind. So sure. In a sense, I'm always practicing yoga, but yes, I try to get on my mat every day. Life happens. Sometimes I can't. But it's something that has been super important and special to me. So it's something I try to continue to do.
Okay. Well, I love that because I know so many people hear that. And I think we often, myself included, say, I don't have time for that. I know I want the benefits of it, but I don't have time. And that's the irony of, I think, yoga, that it does help you slow down, to do more. And I think it's like do less and create more mentality. So after the show, and we'll link it for you guys too, but do you have a favorite travel yoga mat?
I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do. So I love the Alo, ALO, their mat. I love their normal mat that they came out with. And then they have a travel one that I actually bought because I was teaching at the DIA dental conference. And I was like, well, I want to bring my mat. This one's so big. And I found out they came out with a travel one. So I don't have I can definitely send you the exact name of it, but it's on their website. It's excellent. It's lightweight. You can bring it anywhere. And it's, that's part of the challenge, right? We, like you said, like, I don't have time. And I think that's a common thing with anything with working out is that we feel that we don't have time. And something that I've been listening to lately is an inspirational podcast. Well, it's not a podcast. It's like a combination of a bunch of people just speaking inspirational things, motivational speakers. Tony Robbins is on it, Jeff Rogan, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Rock, like just a compilation of it. Uh-huh. And
what is that called?
Mindful motivation, I believe. I can also send that to you if you want to link it.
Absolutely, we will.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger actually talks about that of like people say that they don't have time, and he's like, well, there's 24 hours in the day, and you're sleeping for 8 of it. Well, he says you should only be really sleeping for like 6, and he says just sleep faster, which I think was really funny. But it's the point is to like dedicate time to yourself, right? Yes. We, especially in the dental profession, think about it. We're spending so much time for other people, to educating our patients, to treating our patients, to leading our teams, to giving. And it's just as important to fuel ourselves and to take that time for ourselves and to just show up for ourselves. And whatever form of movement that is, I think that it is so beneficial to us. Getting outside, going for a walk, going for a run, rolling out your yoga mat and just maybe laying down on it. I just think is so important. And having a good mat that you travel with, it's your reminder of, I need to actually put that on the ground and do something with it,
For sure. I'm so excited because I've wanted to do yoga on the road. So I was like, I'm totally asking. I'm asking for all the people like me that want to get into this, that feel they've got a million excuses. And what I found is our excuses are just our limiting beliefs that are holding us back. Because when you're ready to go, it does not matter what the excuses are, you'll go. And so super jazzed. I'm excited for that motivational one. You guys, gosh, Dr. Jenny, that was such a fun podcast. I feel like I pulled so many nuggets. And I love the podcast where I literally sit back like I'm a listener and not the host. And I'm like, just waiting to hear what you have to say. So I love that you just walked us through so many different pieces of, as an associate, taking that ownership of the practice and really being a leader and diving down to the root cause of culture and having those head-on conversations to how you even did that with the leadership books you listed off. And I loved the biology of beliefs and the different belief systems that we have that we run off of. And then wrapping up, of course, with yoga and how taking time for your mental state and your physical state are just as important. I remember I just posted on Instagram, I was asking people for marriage advice for my little sister and hashtag also myself. It's fine. Everybody does it. Asking for a friend, but like me too. And I love that somebody said, don't forget to take CE for your marriage, just like we take CE for our dentistry. And I thought about that just now, like, are we also taking CE or time for ourselves, for our mental state and our physical state? Those things aren't required. It's not like to keep your dental license, you have to take CE. So therefore, you're going to keep up on it. But our bodies don't yell at us until we get sick that, hey, my mental state and my physical state also are requiring CE. My relationships are requiring CE and time and dedication. And so making sure that we're all well balanced, I think I would say that that's one of the greatest journeys and exciting pieces to become a master of throughout this life journey that we get to be on. So Jenny, thank you for your time. Thank you for your Instagram. Thank you for being a friend. I'm so excited to come to Austin and meet you. And I'm excited for just the continued journey. I'm definitely getting you back on the podcast because we've got way more to talk about. But gosh, any last wrap up thoughts you want to add to before we close today?
I just want to thank you for having me on. Like I said, I've been a big fan of yours for quite some time now. And I just love speaking with like-minded people. So I really appreciate you having me on. I encourage everybody to literally listen to all of your podcasts. They're so beneficial. They break things down. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed in dentistry, Kiera Dent has a podcast for it. So
yes, we're going to hashtag that. I like it.
So I just really appreciate it. And I would love to come on and speak with you more. And if anybody has a question for me or wants to connect with me, you can check out my Instagram at Yogi_Dentist. I try to answer my DMs pretty thoroughly. And I just want to continue to make connections with people. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome. You guys totally go check out her page. Go connect with her. If you're an associate, if you're thinking about being an associate, if you're looking to buy a practice, or you're a doctor struggling with leadership, gosh, I think Dr. Jenny, or even yoga, if you guys are struggling with neck and back and, arm pain, all those things, hygienists, dental assistants, you guys, she's got a lot of really cool stuff. So be sure to check her out. She's incredible. And as always, thank you, Dental Team listeners, and we'll catch you next time on the Dental Team podcast. All right, Dental Team listeners, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. And if you loved today's podcast, go leave us a review. It takes you 5 seconds, and your review helps more offices, more practices, more team members just like you find out about the Dental Team. Thank you guys so much for being part of my Dental Team family.